Yeah, thank you for being here today. I will just introduce myself briefly. I'm Martina di Gallo. I'm a project manager and proposal developer here in Altum, Italy, and I will be the moderator of this session. So today we will, in this session, this paper session, we will talk about climate and policy strategies, and we will have, let's see if it works. Yeah, we will have 4 speakers. So we will start with Roberto San Jose from the Universidad Politécnica of Madrid. And we will talk about strategies for climate adaptation and mitigation. Then we will go to the, let's say, energy efficiency topic with, let's say, Eirini, Vasilakou, okay, perfect, from the University of Piraeus, talking about how to bridge the gap between, let's say, energy efficiency policies, but also, let's say, involving stakeholders. Then we will have Giorgia and Galeani from 3B that will talk about biodiversity credits. So super interested also in this topic. So how also the innovative platform for validation and exchange of biodiversity credits. And then we will go to the topic of empowering communities for resilient futures. So bottom-up approaches to sustainable development in Croatia. And here Alice Borsari from Eurac Research will, let's say, explain us this topic. So just for organizational point of view, you have more or less between 15 and 20 minutes since we are, you have 4. After that, let's say after all the presentation, we can have a discussion all together. Okay, you have also the sticker here. If you have any problem, I can switch the slides. So, Roberto. Yes. So here it's. Give me just 1 second. Okay. You have to go. You have to use this one.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Okay, just the last one. Okay. So, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. There are a lot of competitive presentations. So, I'm the coordinator of this project, DISTENDER project, Strategies for Climate Adaptation and Mitigation, Results and Lessons from the Horizon Europe DISTENDER project. The project will end next month at the end. This was a call in 1921. There was 3 projects, so we have 2 sister projects together with DISTENDER, but the other 2 sister projects ends a little bit later, next year, spring, beginning of summer. So our project was 3 years and a half. So the main focus of our project, I will explain in these minutes what we have done, the objectives, and then we can discuss and answer any question. Each project was 7 million euros, approximately. So, yeah, this is basically what I just mentioned. We had and we have a Ukraine partner at the beginning. When the project was funded, it was January 22. I received the email from the Commission. Ukraine was a case study, but on February the war started. We had a negotiation phase until June, as usual. And then during this negotiation phase, basically you can do everything. So the lead city core case study was moved to be a follower. And then Torino city was moved from follower to be a case study. Basically, at the end, we have 5 case studies, starting from Austria government, transport minister, 1 special case study from Portugal and Spain called Eurac, the the European Federation of Agriculture and Forestry. This is a special case study because they are not policymakers. They are an economical, let's say, lobby group in Europe, but it is focused between Spain and Portugal, all that area in Extremadura and the east part of Portugal. This is very special because they produce ham and also trees, because the trees are the food for the pigs. So depending on the type of trees and the type of food, then the emissions. After that, when the pigs eat it and deposit it, then the emissions are different. So you can control almost everything about the emissions and of course the greenhouse gases. This is a special case study between two different countries in Europe. Then we have the Netherlands part, because the water authority in the northeast part of the Netherlands, they were, let's say, represented by the University of Hans with a letter of representation.
University of
University of Hans.
Hansen.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry for the pronunciation. They represent the water authority in the northeast part of the Netherlands. We have also Torino, but in Torino they are represented by themselves, the policymakers in the metropolitan area of Torino. And then we have Guimarães. Guimarães, small because it's the smallest of the 5 core case studies. It's about 100,000 people in the north part of Portugal. So we cover all the scales. That's what I wanted to emphasize, all scales. We mainly focus on the small areas. So in principle, this project and the products, the DSS, the decision support system we have produced and is running from 1st of September, is for all Europe and for all the world because it's open in the internet already. So, but mainly it's focusing on the small cities. Small means basically those cities who don't have too much information about climate, they want to do something from the political point of view. It is difficult for them to find experts, to pay experts, to discuss these things. So in the internet, in our project, they have a product for the next years because it will be there forever in principle. According to the Commission contract, is 3 years, but in principle, it's not a problem to keep it there. So this is our main focus because the cities of Madrid, London, Paris, they have a lot of experts, a lot of funding. It's okay, but that's the idea. Also, Austria is a country, so countries are also represented. But as I said, we mainly focus all scales, mainly on the smaller parts. I mean, the smaller cities, villages, regions. These are our main customers. Let's put it in that way. And also we have UK, of course, the funded, I mean, the funding was paid by the UK government, 22, just the day before the deadline. So they are, of course, very welcome. And they are here all the time because they funded by themselves, but there is an agreement between the UK and the Commission that all projects funded by the Commission, they are going to be supported by the UK government. Okay? So basically, this is the idea. Very simple. I mean, the actions that villages, regions, etc., case studies in the world, they can do for climate change in terms of adaptation and mitigation. So we want to integrate these two parts. You know these type very clear examples. For instance, I was living 2 years in Bergen, in Norway, when I was much younger than now. And I remember now, for instance, the climate, the weather in south part of Norway is much, hot, between what's a little bit hot. So, for instance, they are starting to produce wine. So this is positive for them because they have another production tool, let's put it in that way. So there are positives, again, but also there are trade-offs. That's the problem, when we take an action which seems to be very positive, or in terms of adaptation or mitigation, we have to think about that there is always advantages and disadvantages, and sometimes they are in conflict with other actions which are also positive, but they are in contradiction with other actions that we may take. So this is the objective of the project, how to integrate these actions. Of course, it is quite clear for smaller villages, regions, etc., the actions they can take are mainly adaptation. Because two reasons. Why? One is they feel very small in terms of the world. And the second point, they are part of the country and they have to follow the country rules. So the freedom they have for mitigation, I mean, is quite limited. But in terms of adaptation, they can do a lot. So this is the main focus of our DSS. You can go to the internet, click DISTENDER, then you will see the decision support system. Apply it in a simple ways with a simple methodology, but of course you have to follow it. How to mainly adapt your city in the next months, years, depending on how you apply methodology. But it is clearly explained with this decision support system, and you can play with that. The policymakers, they will have different weights for different strategies that we propose. They can include their own strategies. They can include their own ways, but we will see something at the end. Okay, so this is basically part of what I just mentioned about these trade-offs, etc. Key elements, quantitative and qualitative analysis, of course, these are the parts that we have to start on. Employ participatory methods, very important, because in the project, we have fantastic modelers. My background is physics. I'm working in a computer school with supercomputers, but I'm the coordinator, so it's quite well balanced, the co-creation processes, all the coping capacity, because they analyze the vulnerabilities of the different cities and regions. And finally, the modelers. The modeling we have done in 3.5 years is huge, several terabytes. They will be uploaded to Zenodo, the Commission database, as you know. So we have a very good balance between case studies, policymakers, co-creation processes with the stakeholders in different workshops that we have done during the project. Very good modelers on hydrology, air quality, energy. So we have a very good balance of experts, very good experts on all of these areas. Well, basically, this is what I just mentioned. Well, for our case studies, we have this city near Madrid. It's not small, it's 250,000 people, but it's, let's say, a dormitory city in Madrid. The city of Lviv in Ukraine. Miskolc in Hungary is a small city. As a follower, Nova Gorica in Slovenia, represented by a company in Korea. And finally, Valencia. Unfortunately, Valencia is very famous now because, you know, just 1 year ago, just at the end of this month, 250 people died because of a big flooding. I'm not sure if I would say this now, but 3 weeks ago, we presented another proposal for the next call about the attribution part for the Commission, in order not to continue this tender, because it's completely different, is to know how much the human intervention is affecting the extreme events. Then we need the artificial intelligence. It's a new project. Is the call there for two projects? And we are waiting for January to see. But Valencia is included. That's the only thing that is common between the two projects. So Valencia, unfortunately, is just there because of this situation. It was represented by a foundation, not by the Madrid community itself, also with a letter of representation. Okay, sorry. So basically, these are the cities I was talking about, all the downscaling processes, some examples there. This is probably very technical for you, but the way to do this with the supercomputers, there are two ways. One is dynamical and another one is statistical. The dynamical way to do these huge models is much better. It's much more accurate, but it's much more expensive. The statistical way to do it is cheaper. It's not like artificial intelligence, but it's cheaper, but it's faster. It's faster. So it's good in that sense, but it's not as accurate as the dynamic. Yeah, this is the philosophy. Okay. So just a scheme that I already mentioned in my initial words for you to understand the slides much better and faster. We have done different workshops based on the participatory process. Okay. The analysis of these workshops have been done in order to produce the coping capabilities and vulnerability processes. From the mathematical and dynamical point of view, we have done 2 rounds. So basically, one round, this is limited to 2050 year. So in the first round, basically, we take the cities, the 5 cities. The followers are not going to be modeled, only the 5 because computer is too much. We don't have funds for that. But for the 5 areas, let's put it in that way, we have modeled everything, hydrological models, etc. And in the first round is something like very easy. We take the case studies as they are today, well, a few years ago, and we use the future climate. We put it in the computer, supercomputers, click the button and run. So we will see the impact of the future climate for the different scenarios. You know, at the beginning there was RCP, but now there are socioeconomic scenarios by the IPCC, okay? So we don't know the future, but today we know that there are, formally speaking, 5 scenarios to the future. SSP 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In fact, the 4 is very much discussed, so we took it out somehow. Then we kept 1, 2, 3, and 5. Basically, the scenario 5 is more or less the actual scenario when you compare with the observations. Unfortunately, these are bad news. There are not too many changes between the observations and the model using the scenario 5. Using the scenario 1, very green, the correlation is very bad because unfortunately we do our best in word terms, but very slowly. Unfortunately, these are something which is known today, but it's progressing, of course. Today better than yesterday and worse than tomorrow. That's good news. So this is the scenario 1, and the scenario 2 is the same, exactly the same, but when we go to the future, we change the land use, basically. So changing the land use is because Madrid today, the city of Madrid today is not the city of Madrid in 2050. It will be some land use changes. Okay, so we put it in the computer, and the land use, you know, from the meteorological and climate point of view, the land use is the force, the driving force. Because in the atmosphere, you know that the movements are not like that, like in the TV maps, you know, the low pressure is moving, etc. No, basically the main processes are vertical, and the maps you see in the TV are the consequence of these different changes. Then you have a movement of the wind, etc. So this is the scenario 2. If you make the impact round 2A minus round 2-1, you will see what is the impact of the land use change and other socioeconomic changes, but mainly the land use, because if the land use change and there are part of the land use which is going to be, let's say, in industrial area and now it's in agricultural area, there will be an impact in terms of sociological impacts, etc. Okay. So this is what I just explained again. SSP1, SSP2. I mean, these numbers are the radiative force. I don't think, if you want to know details, you can ask me afterwards. But it's basically the same. So we made the downscaling, and then with the co-creation processes, and finally, we have the DSS, Decision Support System. So this is just a brief scheme about our project that we are finishing in 1 month and a half. And this is another scheme of the different work packages. I have to mention that we designed 11 work packages, but the Commission immediately in January, when they sent me the email, your project is funded, but immediately they sent, you have to add the work package is ethics, okay? And then you have to sign a letter saying that you are not going to use artificial intelligence. Okay, no problem. It's true, we will not going to use it. But anyway, we have an ethics ethics work package. You see, you know that this is only for the Commission, because in US, I have a lot of relations with US, even family people living in US, they don't care about that, you know, but in our case, we had to put a lot of effort for the ethics, checking the meetings, the teams, etc. I mean, it was a lot of work, but interesting. Okay, and this is some output of the decision support system that you can see in the internet. Okay, basically the decision support system is, during the project, we created a decision matrix. The UK partner selected hundreds of strategies for each scenario. And then they were analyzed by the case studies in the workshops with different stakeholders in order to have a decision matrix created by the experts. This is supposed to be done by all cities, regions in the future. They want to use the DSS. If they don't want to do it, they can say, in the 5 case studies I show in the internet, we are close to this one, for instance, Torino, because our city, for many reasons, is similar to this one. So we are going to copy this decision matrix. And they get results, because the next step is that the policymaker has to decide between the, in this case, 26 indicators. They have to decide what is the weight they produce. For instance, I live in a city in Europe, and then I have to decide if I have to build a hospital or building some barriers for a flooding in the future. I have a limited budget, put all the things together in the system, and this is a political decision. So 100% for the barrier and 0% for the hospital, for instance, or whatever. You can put 70 or 30, whatever. Depending on the numbers, click the button, and then you get the optimal strategy and so on. So that gives you, everybody, a clue how to start this process. Of course, if you want to do it in a more rigorous way, you have to produce your own decision matrix, which takes time because you have to make an expert consulting, etc. That's what we want. Okay, yeah. So this is the decision matrix that you see that is possible to have green, yellow, and red, because the expert decided that the numbers they put, some of them are more reliable than other numbers. That's why we have this green, yellow, and red. And, well, this is just an example of the indicators, the 26 indicators. The different strategies. I mentioned that the UK partner was the leader of the Work Package 6. Well, just some mathematics about the decision support system, very simple, by the way. We are covering all types of areas, and that's all what I wanted to tell you. Thank you. Questions now?
Later.
Okay.
We will do a presentation first, and then we will keep the final minutes for questions. So now we will talk about energy efficiency policy. So the name of this presentation is Bridging Gaps in Energy Efficiency Policy, Aligning Stakeholder Needs with Practical Resources. So give the floor to Eirini.
Thank you very much.
So you have to use this one. Just
Nice.
1 second.
Yeah, sure. Great. So, hello everyone. My name is Eirini Vasilakou, and as you see, I work as a researcher at the Techno-Economics of Energy System Laboratory in Greece, at the University of Piraeus, Greece. And as Martina said, today our contribution is titled Bridging Gaps in Energy Efficiency Policy, and this work has been carried out under the ENSMOV Plus project, as you can see, which is a life-funded initiative that also ends the next month as well. And the main aim of the project is to support member states and especially policymakers in the implementation of the Article 8 of the Energy Efficiency Directive. Great. So before we go on to that, a brief introduction about the Energy Efficiency Directive and what it means for member states. So as you may be familiar, this directive was firstly adopted in 2012 and is the EU's main legislative framework for the reduction of energy consumption in the member states. So this directive has been since recasted in 2023, and now it raises new progressively increasing annual energy saving targets for the member states. This means in practice that they are required to implement or adapt their energy efficiency obligation schemes together with some other alternative measures. And why this is relevant now is because in the newly recast DED, we have two major changes. The first one is that now member states are required to exclude energy savings coming from fossil fuel technologies from 2026 onward. So boilers, they will not be accounted for the savings. And they are also required to achieve a target portion of the energy savings in vulnerable groups, the so-called energy poverty ring fence. In practice, though, this means that, public authorities and stakeholders are not able to easily find and apply the tools they need to fulfill these requirements. This is where the ENSMOV Plus project comes in. And as we said before, it's a 3-year project, and as you can see, the main aim is threefold, actually. First, we aim to facilitate policy exchange between peers, so stakeholders like policymakers, energy stakeholders. We also aim to strengthen the monitoring and verification systems and evaluation for the policy and the energy savings. And we also aim to provide tools, resources, and support that covers the whole of the policy cycle. So we cover from the first part, which is the policy design and implementation phase, through the monitoring and verification, and then finally to the policy evaluation phase. The main outputs, some of them I'm going to present later on, include first a knowledge exchange activity and a knowledge exchange platform, which is a repository for all of the project's resources. We also have a plethora of those, like the country snapshots and the Excel-based tool I will present later on. And we also have 2 modeling exercises on quantification analysis and policy. The project brings together 14 partners. As you can see, we have also public authorities and national associations and research labs like TEESLab, which we work with. And we are coordinated by ICP, which is the Institution for European Energy and Climate Policy in the Netherlands. So to get on with our study today, the aim of the study was twofold. First, we aim to develop an Excel-based tool, which is called the Compendium of Resources, that what it does, it basically maps the existing tools and references for the 3 steps of the policy cycle, and then it makes the resources easily searchable and accessible by all of the stakeholders. The aim of this tool is to support policymakers and stakeholders to easily find and implement practical solutions for the article implementation. The second aim of this study was to identify where gaps remain, so where resources were not easily available, and then highlight how the ENSMOV Plus activities that our project partners developed were able to respond to the unmet needs of the stakeholders. How we performed the needs assessment, as you can see here, first we conducted a survey, so we received 156 responses for 3 different types of stakeholders, which were policymakers, energy stakeholders, and other stakeholders outside of the energy supply chain. And they were asked to rate 24 topics and issues that we had predefined, and they cover the whole of the policy cycle using a 5-point scale, depending on their priorities. So what topics do they find most relevant and they receive the highest priority for them? Here I present briefly the 4 topics that got the most of the votes from the stakeholders. Let's say for the policy design and implementation phase, we see that first one comes the identification of complementary measures to fuel switching, which is relevant because, as we said before, fossil fuel technologies are going to be excluded next year. So fuel switching is a big priority for policymakers especially. The second part of our methodology was to first update a previous version of the Excel tool, which was developed by ENSMOV, which is the predecessor of the ENSMOV Plus project. So what we did there was we fixed the broken links, we removed outdated resources, and we also developed a new, more user-friendly template organized by the steps of the policy cycle. And we also added some structural information like the target audience and the target sector, and some relevant keywords that they will make the resources more easily to find in the tool. Then we conducted desk-based research. So we focused on the priorities that received the highest rating from the stakeholders. And we went to international, national, and European resources like databases, webinars, reports. And through that, we managed to integrate the new resources with the old ones and expand the inventory. And now we have the new and improved ENSMOV Plus Compendium of Resources Excel tool. Now to the main part of the study, which was the matchmaking of the resources. We tried to match all of the collected resources with the priorities that receive the highest rating from the stakeholders. So this means that here we have an overview of how these were classified. As you can see, keeping on the fuel switching topic, each resource was presented through this template here, which has all the information stakeholders may need, like the target audience, geographical area, and use sector. Here we have all of these criteria, which is fully searchable in the Excel tool. So this makes it easier for someone to search, let's say, especially for a relevant country, like I want to search for target audience for policymakers in Greece. So this was fully searchable. And we managed to gather 67 new resources and develop the Excel-based tool, which I have a small screenshot here. It's available online, as you can see. And this is how it looks on that. And for the second part, we had the gap identification. So this is the part where we didn't find many resources, or even we couldn't find any available resources online on the 3 steps of the policy cycle. And these gaps, they directly inform and guide the ENSMOV Plus project and our partners to develop complementary resources. To be more specific here, for the first part, we noticed that there were a few resources on targeting energy poor households. So in response to that, ENSMOV Plus has developed a series of webinars and publications, which main aim is to recognize, firstly, what is a priority group and how would you recognize a policy and an energy per household, and then how we're going to target them efficiently through our policies. The second gap we identified was that although there were studies on energy saving potentials, they often they weren't specifically made for Article 8 of the Energy Efficiency Directive. So our partners, we have put together the country snapshots. It's a continuation of the previous ENSMOV snapshots. These are in the form of a fact sheet. So they're very detailed and they have key information about the scope of the obligation scheme a country is implementing, the monitoring and verification and control processes, and they are also complemented with interviews. So we have insights from the experts on how they designed these policies and what lessons they learned from the designer phase. This part, can enable the experience sharing between the member states, so we can have more targeted and more and better designed policies. For the second part, which was the monitoring and verification, we have a lack of resources on verifying energy savings. So together with a limited methods for data collection and data processing, we developed a workshop that brought together practitioners from all over Europe. So we had presentations from Croatia, from Greece, from France, from Germany, and they discussed what barriers and what solutions they are in applying the measurement methods in practice. So this was, again, an experience sharing workshop. And for quality assurance, we also noticed that most of the quality assurance resources are specifically on the building sector. For that, we also developed a workshop and material that focuses on the industrial sector, which is a sector that, as you may know, has few public tools available for quality assurance. We had Italy and France share their experience on how the energy savings are measured in the water certificate scheme and also in the energy efficiency obligation scheme. Finally, on the whole topic of monitoring and verification, the ENSMOV Plus has developed a specific case study which brings together 5 country examples, and it's a form of a fact sheet again, so it's a very easily digestible report, and its case includes some policy background information, technical aspects of the measurement processes and the calculations used, and also experience sharing again and good practices the member states have identified. Lastly, on the policy evaluation part of the policy cycle, ENSMOV Plus has developed 2 modeling exercises. To briefly describe them, the first one was called the Croatian application. So the aim was to use a model to optimize the allocation of funds under an incentive scheme in Croatia for single-family houses. So our main objective was to maximize the energy savings while keeping the budget under $120 million, which was the target for the scheme. And the second one was the Greek application. So here we have different renovation pathways. We used scenarios to test different renovation depths, so medium level renovation or deep level renovation, heating system upgrades or heat pump integration. And the main output of that was a year-by-year roadmap that starts from 2024 and goes all the way to 2050. And it meets the targets of the National Energy and Climate Plan, which was recently recasted again. So this is the tool that we use. Just for reference, is an in-house developed model called BRIM, which is a bottom-up modeling tool for the building sector. And what we managed to do through these applications was demonstrate how we can use modeling for ex-ante assessments and how modeling can actually provide examples that member states can replicate. Finally, to wrap up, what the ENSMOV Plus project did was map the needs of the stakeholders against the existing tools and bring them all together in the Excel title compendium of resources. Also, we identified where gaps still remain and hinder the effective implementation of Article 8. And also, we brought to the light the outputs of the project that directly respond to those gaps. So these outputs, they provide transferable resources that the member states can adapt or they can adopt as there is. And there are a few challenges where we found little resources, and the project hasn't an answer for that yet, hopefully on the next edition of the project, on innovative data methods, algorithmic verification of energy savings, and quality assurance, as we said, outside the building and industry sector. All of the project materials, all of the reports, webinars, and tools that I mentioned are available on the ENSMOV Plus platform, which you can access by clicking the link there. And that was all from my side. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. So we can move on with the next presentation. It will be from Caterina Massa from LIV, and she will talk about the innovative platform for validation and exchange of biodiversity credits. So,
It's going. So yeah, welcome everyone to this project presentation. It's called, our project was Conscience and was founded by the National Biodiversity Future Center and the European Union last year, and it's called Conscience. As we were saying before, I'm going to present a project where we created platform for the exchange of biodiversity credits. But before going on that, I'm just going to have a step back to let you know where everything started. Everything started with the biodiversity decline. I think every one of you know that at the moment, biodiversity is really important, and the current rate of biodiversity loss is really fast, and so it's threatened, and it's something we have to take in account nowadays. Here are just some numbers. I think you might already have seen them. So 90% of ecosystems are under threat, 70% of those are at risk. There are lots of species that are getting extinct, especially in the insects group, if we can call it that. The problem is not only the biodiversity at the moment, but it's also all the economics that there's around nature. So you all know what ecosystem services are. Here again, there are only some numbers just to tell you the importance of nature nowadays. So 50% of global GDPs are contingent upon ecosystem services. 44% of economic value is vulnerable. It's significantly vulnerable for degradation of natures. And here again, there are some numbers of dollars, trillions of dollars actually, to let you know how really nature is important. Obviously, there are actions that has been done to protect nature, and those are the nature-based solutions and the restoration activities. These are two main activities, projects that has been implemented in all over Europe to try to prove strategies to counter biodiversity loss. The fundamental differences between the two is that nature-based solutions are new implementations, so are green infrastructures, ecosystem conservation actions, sustainable land management, whereas the restoration activities, as the word is saying, is actually going to repair something that is already there. So we have reforestation, species reintroduction, habitat reconstruction, and so on. So there are two different solutions that they have kind of the same aim, to try to restore nature. Nevertheless, the problem at the moment is that all those activities they cost a lot, and no one wants to invest in restoration activities. They don't see the need, like a company don't really understand why they need to invest in this. So there is really a financial gap between the ecological value and economic viability. So that's where we stepped in. So everything started from the Unipedia that came out in September this year in Italy. And this is really a document that it's trying to develop specifically and to address this gap that we have been talking about. In this document, at the moment it's only in Italian, but hopefully it will become a base for something European in the future. We try to establish criteria and methodologies to help organizations to assess and reduce their biodiversity footprint. Defining guidelines for biodiversity credits, through something verifiable and certifiable for the regeneration projects. What we thought it was really important, and I'm saying it here, and I will come back on this concept afterwards, was the verifiability. So it was really important that every credit has to be verifiable, especially by an independent third parties. So there won't be, it's everything really good tracing. But the next question that you might have in mind is, okay, companies can define and decide to invest in biodiversity credits, but how do we generate biodiversity credits? How do we calculate the footprint? And we started from an ecological value that at the moment it's really important in Europe and it's quite used, that is the mean species abundance. Every land has a value of mean species abundance. So it's really the extent to which an area biodiversity aligns with the previous natural reference conditions. So you can understand a natural grassland has a really high mean species abundance, whereas a city or an infrastructure has a really low MSA. What we want to calculate in this biodiversity credits is the difference. So the restoration activities we were talking about before, which difference between MSA is there? Is it bringing something more, something new to that? So it's really important to calculate the variation before and after the restoration of project. The second conditions you can see in this formula is the hectares. So obviously, the bigger is the restoration project, the bigger it has an impact. It's really easy. So also in this formula, it was really important to give an importance also to these conditions. The third condition is the years, because again, if the project is longer, it has much more time to develop, and especially nature needs time. That's something I think you all know. So a project that is durable for 20 years will create much more, an impact much higher than something that is durable only for 2 years and maybe it will be destroyed because something else is coming. So these are all the conditions we decided to put in this formula. Something different maybe from the carbon credits markets, where we started kind of have an idea from that, is where these credits can be generated. Carbon credits, you can have an impact in Europe, but buy them in South Africa. We decided with biodiversity that it was important to go to restore where exactly you decided to, where you have an impact. It can be for a company on site in the same place, or if you don't have space to do a restoration action there, you can do it off-site, but within 150 kilometers. So in an area that has the same ecosystem. Again, as I was saying before, we also decided a minimum durability to gain biodiversity credits that has to be between 50 to 30 years minimum. So this is the system that established an economic incentive for nature-based solution and restoration action activities. The other question you might have is, okay, that's really interesting. MSA, it's a value that it's working. How do we measure actually if the restoration project has an impact, is working or not? And we do it with sensors. We have at the moment 3 different types of IoT sensors. The first one is the yellow one, is called Spectrum, and it's a bioacoustic sensor that is capable of detecting the flight frequencies of pollinators. We have something similar for bird life. It's the second image, the one in the middle, the green IoT sensor that is detecting the bioacoustic of birds. The third one are camera traps. Again, camera traps are really used in monitoring. They're able to do both photos and videos during the day and during the night. So it's something you can put there and monitor for 24 hours, 365 days per year. What we actually added to this camera is they're enhanced with advanced recognition algorithms. So our camera traps are able to tell you already, without a person behind, which animal has passing through. Obviously, after it, there will be a person to see if it's everything correct, but at the moment, it's already able to identify the animal. How we bring all those things together, we have in Freebie this platform that is called X Natura, where you can bring really together the sensors, the lab analysis, if lab analysis are done in the restoration project, on-field surveys if there are experts going in field, and the remote sensing. So something that I wasn't talking before is that we are able also with indirect analysis to make and image satellites to understand which is the land cover in that point, and give to each land cover an MSA value. So as I was saying before, this is a value it's going between 0 and 1. Infrastructures have a value of 0.3, so really low. Natural grasslands have a MSA value of 1. And so we can calculate on one unique platform the before and after the value of MSA, and so understand the biodiversity credits. So stepping into our project and this platform to use it to exchange the biodiversity credits, we started to look back to the UNI-PDRs of this document. And the question was, why do we need a third-party registered platform? And the answer was, there's a big risk. The first one is double counting. So without a secure registry, the credit can be sold multiple times, and this is something we don't want to be like that. So the solution was we need to have a unique code. Other requirements that there were in the documents were the traceability, the persistence, so this conservation between 15 and 30 years, as I was talking before, the transferability, and the validation within third-party verification bodies. So we decided to do this platform, and we decided to use blockchain. Why we decided to use blockchain? Actually, for these three reasons. The first one was immutability. So the data that are uploaded on this platform cannot be modified or cancelled. So that's a data that will remain there. The second point was the unique property. So in each moment, one credit corresponds to one property, and the transparency. So each transfer is publicly verifiable. So what I want to say in all of this is that our platform and the blockchain was not a technology searching for a problem, but was actually really the technical answer to a specific requirement of the documents of the UNI-PDR. So here are some ideas of how the platform is. We are still developing it, but that's kind of the key points and key function that it will have. Obviously, there will be a document repository with all the reports and documentation that is saved in a unique platform. There will be really this connection between the credit generated by a restoration project and the credit generated and the project itself. It will have a time snap notarization, and most importantly is that this will be a multi-role dashboard. So both the people or the farmers or whoever that have done the restoration activity can enter, but also proposing organization, validation bodies, credit acquirers. So it's bringing together all those different stakeholders. And again, most importantly are these three things that you can see in the squares. So it was really important for us that it was compliant with the newest document in Italy at the moment. It was interoperable, so it has a prompt integration with future national registers, and it's scalable. So at the moment, this is a pilot project, but it can be used for thousands of managed credits. So all of this is what to say that bringing together the X Natura platform, the sensors, the UNI-PDR, we were able to create a framework where the nature-based solution and the restoration activities were not only seen as a cost, but can generate actually an economic value. So I thank you for your attention. Give the stage to someone else.
Thanks a lot, Marina. So yeah, for the final presentation, I'll call here Alicia Borsari from Eurac Research. She will talk about empowering communities for resilient futures, so bottom-up approaches to sustainable development in Croatia. So you have to press this button here. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Martina. So, hi everyone. I will be briefly because I know you get to be hungry. So, I'm Alice Borsari from Eurac Research, that is an European research center based in Bolzano. And today I want to present to you the effort and work done inside our strategic partnership that we have with Croatia. So compare, for example, to the previous presentation, this is not part of an European project. And also compared to Roberto and Eirini, we are at the very beginning. So this is not the final results. And I want to present to you how to empower communities for resilience future and our bottom-up approach to sustainable development. So as I said, we are having this strategic partnership that include 7 different organizations from 3 different countries. We have, of course, Croatia. We are presenting the Italian partner, and we have also some South African Republic friends. And we are working in a 5-year plan. We finished the first year with the goal to empower small communities in the inner Croatia and to develop and increase their potential to both climate resilience and also the integration of policy strategies. And this is why we are presenting the effort done in this session. And mainly inside the strategic partnership, we are working for different direction, and as Eurac Research, we are taking care of the sustainable development concept. Maybe you are asking yourself, why Croatia? Because we are, as the European Union, working on the community potential programs that involve 8 different small local communities across Croatia. And the program, as I said, empower local communities that are both on the coast, like Pag, Zadar. We have also Beograd na Moru, Drins, Šibenik, passing in the inside, in the inner island, like Slunj, Dugareza, and Karlovac. And all these really small communities are facing different challenges. Someone is suffering from the population or demographic decline. Someone have like a low awareness on the climate change topic. Zadar, for example, is facing the over-tourism problem. So as a European research center, our goal is to provide a methodology to these communities to face problem, providing a step-by-step methodology that can be applied. So as I said, these small communities are facing different problems, both coastal region and rural island. And the key point is really to use a bottom-up approach to so empower communities and also integrate policies in the different communities aspect. And the bottom-up approach that we are using have the idea to transform communities from passive communities into a proactive one. And to do it, we did some steps. We started with a preliminary online questionnaires in order to understanding their situation, because we are based in Italy and we don't know how the situation in Croatia is. We did an on-site visit as a scientific expert to validate our previous analysis, and in order to create a report on the status quo analysis that will be the starting point for the next years. And as I said, our first part was to understand, since we are working on the sustainable topic, to understand how local communities perceive themselves in the field of sustainability. And we collect 19 responses. And as you can see in this graph, you can see the average year of respondents. And this was the starting point to tailor a policy recommendation for communities, producing a step-by-step methodology. And I want to show to you very briefly, for example, one of the questions, like what are the key challenges that you are facing in addressing the sustainability topic? And more or less, they say that capacity gaps and also behavior change are the main barriers. Or, for example, we asked what are the key drivers that support your effort in addressing sustainability, and of course, as everyone knows, financial incentive and also the civic engagement is crucial. And we get in the second phase, so passing from theory to practice. We did an on-site visit this year from June to July, understanding the different communities, and we get more in deep about understanding their potential or also their needs. So passing from questionnaires to on-site observation was crucial to better reshape the direction. And basically what we did in the third phase was for each of the 8 community involved, try to understand their main intervention area for increase the sustainable development. So for example, as you can see in this slide, Zadar can be focused on culture and innovation. PAG, for example, they are facing the population problems. Dreams could be, empowered from the food festival and youth engagement and so on. And today I want to present to you very briefly, for example, Zadar and Zlun. So as I said, for Zadar, we understood that the city trajectory can be strengthened by empowering their culture. And basically what we did in our report was to, since 1 year is finished, to provide some guidelines, some best practices that are also coming from the other European project that we are following. And for example, for this case, we propose this insight from Bolzano. As you can imagine, are really small communities, so we need to be practical and easy when we present something. And for example, for Zlun, I don't know if you know, but was recognized as one of the best villages in the world. And we proposed the best practice that we have in South Tyrol called Gallo Rosso. Who are from Italy, maybe you know we have like the Gallo Rosso is a network of certified farm. So we propose this idea to create Zlun quality label, for example, or to establish and increase the local food hub. And basically the lesson learned, of course, are that we need to empower community, pass to them the idea that they have multiple benefits that they can gain, but we need to be easy, and also we have the local, the language as local barriers, and we are producing in the next year the user manual, so really a simple guideline that they can use, assisted by us as scientific partners, to promote themselves and to continue the path of sustainability. And that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Alicia. So I don't know if the audience has any questions for the speakers. If not, I can just start with, let's say, a general question, but for all of you. So as we saw, the topics were different, but they share a common part of, how we can improve or integrate policies and how they can better support citizens in different areas. So from your side, which are the main challenges that you encountered also with, having interaction with the policymakers or also with the stakeholders? We saw different kind of stakeholders. Also, for example, in particular, having interaction with citizens, try to involve them. So which are the challenges you encountered during your activities? Even though, you have also, there are some projects that are mostly completed and some others that are at the very beginning. So I don't know who wants to start.
Well, I already mentioned in my presentation, the most challenging thing is the language. The language of mathematical and modeling people is very different to the co-creation social science. Continues to be very different. So that was, as a coordinator, my main challenge. Even some partners from the social science, they wanted to create some kind of bottom-up. So the project was approved. There was a work program, but they liked the bottom-up approach. So they said, then why do we need a work program, because they wanted to start from scratch. And then that created some controversy at the beginning, and I had to deal with.
You have to balance.
I don't know if give you to more details, but I think this is essential in all the European projects. I've been in more than 40 projects in all my life, very old, started in '92. So I have known how the Commission has been progressing and changing in the last 35 years, more or less. But this is, I think now is much better, because the initial projects many years ago were more formal, let's put it that way. But today we continue to have a work program, If the Commission approves a work program, they pay for that, and then you make a completely different project. So things like that. So this is quite difficult. In our case, we were very successful, but after talking a lot. During the first year. So at the end, everything is perfect, everything is okay, but I'm sure that some partners would have liked to do a different project than the proposal, but this is my experience. I think it is more or less the same, not only in this area, but in all the areas.
Of course.
But that's the point, that's the point for the European projects.
I think, I don't know if you want to comment, the part related to engaging people and different stakeholders, it's always, I think I'm taking care of engagement and social innovation activities, so I perfectly know what you're talking about. So it's, but I think it's a very important point because you develop tools, services, solutions that at the end need to respond to a need of a specific user. So dealing with, trying to make the solution accepted entails a lot of work. And if you do it, let's say at the beginning, if you start at the beginning, at least you have some time also to include perhaps things that you didn't thought about at the beginning.
Yeah.
If I can jump in, as I said, Eurac Research is an European research center. So I presented to you a strategic partnership, but we are working with 50 European projects. And our strategy on that, of course, is that like in the consortium, each partner needs to take care of the pilot. So I know it's double effort for the scientific part because you need to translate each time English to the consortium and in local language, but this is the best way to keep attention and also for pilots to understand the benefits that they are gaining. For example, we are also working in a lot of projects with small communities, and keep them in the loop is not so easy. So try to be simple, try to assist also if it's double effort for you for translation is the best way. So each partner take care of its pilot and merge and link everything in double language.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, it was a little bit different. The main thing was that we had to engage different stakeholders that were sometimes opposing. So we also had the policymakers, and on the other hand, we had the ESCOs, the energy companies. So the policymakers make the legislative changes, make the framework. Someone has to implement this framework. So they were a bit on opposite sides. But I think we try to bridge that gap in a sense. And also the national context, it's quite different for the implementation of the policies. So you have a European directive, which then has to be transposed to national law, and the national context of each country plays a big role in that. And we had some differentiations, and this is why we try to have the knowledge exchange between countries with similar contexts. And I think this is how we're trying to support also the stakeholders in that.
Yeah, also because I think that also in terms of governance models, they are quite different. And
Major difference,
yeah.
Major.
So, and also in that case, for example, I know quite well the situation in Italy, where in particular for energy poverty, even though we know that it's one of the main topics that has to be addressed in the upcoming now and the upcoming years, but there are still, we have policies, but we have the instruments, but
There's no connection between them. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And also the interactions between different actors, it's not so easy.
Yeah, because they're again on opposite sides.
Yeah,
One wants to do the thing, and the other wants to do another thing. We try to minimize this as best as we can.
Yeah, and Caterina, I don't know if
well, from our project, we didn't have directly contacts with stakeholders. I would say we had major contact maybe when we were writing the UniPDR document, when we were bringing together scientific sides. So we had 2 different universities supporting us. There were startups, there were other companies, but it was much easier maybe from your side because we were all Italian, so we had all the same basis on where to start. But it's always difficult to bring together someone that maybe has a different background from yours. So our strategy was really making sometimes a step back, but so we were all on the same line to start again, to build all together.
Yeah, and I think also multidisciplinarity, it's like also an added value, even though it's a little bit challenging.
Exactly.
Since the topic is quite complex, also because it entails, not only, let's say, urban areas, but also not urban areas. So yeah, it's quite complicated also to find, let's say, a common basis, a common understanding of the topic.
Exactly.
Okay. So I don't know if there are any other questions. Otherwise, we can close the session and have lunch. So yeah, thank you very much for